Recently, I talked about slowing down on my record buying habits, and I have. I really have. But there are some other things that I need to focus on. But I'm not stopping completely, although that really would be the smart thing to do. But my day revolves around music, and for me, music means vinyl records, at least as far as a playback format. So why am I telling you this? Well, because of a reason that has to do with releases. There are a number of, I'm going to say, very cool releases coming up in the first half of 2024, and there's a good chance many of them will end up in my collection. I could spend really an entire video on each of these releases, but instead of doing that, I'm just going to fly through them, and maybe you'll see something that interests you as well. So let's call this particular episode the 10 releases I'm excited about for the first half of 2024. Now, I tried to think of a way to do this. Do I do it by level of excitement? Do I do it just randomly? And I know I'm way overthinking this, and that's what I typically do anyway, so just spit them out, right? So let's do this by release date. So we'll start with this one, The Who, live at Shea Stadium, 1982. Recorded October 13th, 1982, this would be their last tour until they toured again in 1989. And if my memory serves me right, I think that they were considering retiring back in 1982. I swear that they've retired or announced retirement more times than Ozzy. But nevertheless, this was supposed to have been their last tour. It was only 5 years ago that they released the studio album simply titled The Who. Anyway, this particular tour, was their last one with drummer Kenny Jones, who replaced Keith Moon, who had passed away just a few years before. Now, Kenny Jones used to be the drummer for The Faces, which Rod Stewart was the lead vocalist on. And I only bring The Faces up because it's relevant for another release I'm excited about. And no, it's not The Faces. One reason that I'm excited about this album is the opening act that night was The Clash. And The Clash's performance was captured live as well. And that was released back in 2008, The Clash live at Shea Stadium. And I remember hearing way back then that the Clash, some of the Who fans did not appreciate The Clash, so they booed them off the stage. I don't know if it actually happened at this particular show, but interesting tidbit of information. So this particular record, that was released on March 1st. And since I'm recording this after March 1st, yeah, I actually bought it. So much for slowing down on record buying, right? Next one is one I've mentioned before, Judas Priest's Invisible Shield. We still have longtime band members, Rob Halford on vocals, Glenn Tipton on guitar, Scott Travis on drums, and Ian Hill on bass. And the lineup is filled out by Richie Faulkner, who joined the band back in 2014 for the Redeemer of Souls album. Great addition for that dual guitar attack that Judas Priest is so well known for. Now that release is on March 8th. For a change of pace, I'm excited about this one, The Roots of Robert Johnson, Back to the Crossroads. Also released on March 8th, this one actually does not feature Robert Johnson at all. It's a compilation of blues artists who were around during Johnson's time and who may have inspired him. Artists like Skip James, Kokomo Arnold, and Petey Wheatstraw. And these were all recorded around the late 20s and the 1930s, so it's a pretty exciting album. So it's a great introduction to some of the blues greats who were, over the years kind of overshadowed by Robert Johnson's fame. So where are we now? We're at number 4, right? Number 4 on the list is The Black Crowes' Happiness Bastards. It's kind of a cool title. Anyways, it's the last time, or no, not the last time, it's the first time that they've released an album of all new material since 2009's, I already forgot the name of it, Before the Frost, Until the Freeze, something like that. It promises to be a really good album if you base it on a couple of the singles they've released, and this comes out on March 15th. Now, I remember the first time I heard the Black Crowes. This was back in 1990 when they released Jealous Again. And I remember thinking at the time that they sounded a lot like The Faces, which is why I mentioned The Faces earlier. Chris Robinson still sounds great, sounds exactly like he did, and they still have that Faces sound to them. The last one for March is a reissue. That's Blue Oyster Cult's Secret Treaties. This was originally released in 1974, and it contains some classic staples of their live show like Career of Evil, Dominance and Submission, and Astronomy. A little known fact, On this album is the song Career of Evil, which was written by a musician poet, or co-written by a musician. Maybe she wrote the whole thing. Anyway, musician poet Patti Smith. So she was dating the keyboardist of BOC at the time, Alan Lanier. And she's also written and co-written a few songs with the boys over the years. So the reason that this reissue is on my list of albums to purchase is the copy that I bought 4 decades ago had a problem with the song KG Cretins on that kicks off side 2. And I rebought that album shortly afterwards, still 4 decades ago, and had the same problem with the same song. So it led me to believe there's something wrong with that pressing. And here we are all these years later, and there's going to be a reissue of this, so it's on my list. So I think I'm on number 6 now, right? And that would be The Damned, Shadowed Tales from Mulhouse. Now, this one is actually a live album from 1994, which features Rat Scabies on drums and Dave Vanian on vocals. And looking at the track list, looks like there's some great songs on it. And one of my favorite albums recently is 2023's Darkadelic from The Damned. I can't get enough of that album. It's probably my favorite album of 2023. Now, this one comes out on April 5th. Now, Blue Oyster Cult actually makes the list again with Ghost Stories. This one comes out on April 12th, and it's being marketed as their final album, which kind of breaks my heart. It's supposed to be an album of remixed and reworked songs from their past and features all of the original members with the sad exception of Alan Lanier, who I just mentioned a couple minutes ago. He passed away in 2013. Now, what's a couple months without a new Neil Young album? And he's releasing another one. He just keeps cranking them out. Neil's kind of turned into a monthly bill for me now. So Neil's at it again in April. It might be on Record Store Day, and if it's not on Record Store Day, it's towards the end of April. And that's an album he recorded just last year with his on-again, off-again band, Crazy Horse. And that's this album. I can't talk today. That's this album. Did it again. Effing Up. Yeah, because I was effing up. Anyway, this goes back to, they reworked a bunch of their songs that goes all the way back to the early 90s, the album Ragged Glory. So it promises to be a really good record. Again, it's on my list. All right, we're at the last 2. I told you I was going to fly through these. So the next up is The Pretenders, Learning to Crawl. This is also a reissue, and I bought my copy of this way back in 1984 when it was first released, and my copy's in near mint condition, so I'm not going to be buying this one. But it doesn't mean I'm not excited to see it out there as being scheduled for release. Now, this is an admission I'm going to make here. Back in the 80s, I had a huge crush on Chrissie Hynde. It was unrequited. She never knew it. Anyway, so this album, this particular reissue is cool because it's the only version on vinyl that's going to contain what Chris Thomas, the original producer, did to it back in 2018. He remastered the album. So if you don't own Learning to Crawl, this is probably the one to get. You'll have to wait until May 24th, though. And speaking of waiting, the last one on my list is one I've been waiting for to have pressed on vinyl since it was released back in 1999. I'm talking about Blondie's No Exit. The band just announced that to mark the album's 25th anniversary, they are releasing a vinyl version, finally. That was 25 years ago. I can't believe Maria, the song Maria, is 25 years old. I still think of that as a new song. How old am I? Up until now, you could only get this album on CD or via streaming. There is no release date yet on this album, but my wife and I just saw Blondie a couple years ago in Boston, and Debbie Harry still sounds amazing. If you close your eyes, it's still the same Debbie Harry that sang 70s, 80s, 90s. She never stops. So there's my list. I'm sure there will be more because there is always more. As always, leave comments below. You know I love to hear from you. And until next time, please take care of yourself and enjoy your records. I'm talking about Blondie's No Exit. They're releasing for the first time on vinyl this album, which I'm exceptionally, I am excited about. Today is not my day for talking, I swear to God. All right, we're going to try this again.